With Hayward about leaving, you can bet there's probably going to be a pretty big severance payout, what's known as a golden parachute, of course. Some reports have the buyout at about $20 million. Should he get it? Should the Obama administration stop it? Do you think they will? Joining us now is Ben Ferguson, host of Icon Radio Network. And on the phone, we have Andy Bush, public policy strategist at BMO Capital Markets. Guys, thanks for joining us. Ben, I was looking it up before the segment. His salary is about $1.6 million. Last year, he made a $6 million bonus. I guess his contract says that if he can be fired with 1 year's pay. But we're hearing he's going to get a lot more than that. What do you think?
Well, it's private sector, and I think he should be able to get whatever he wants to get and whatever BP agrees upon and whatever they think is fair. I think the problem here is we're hearing from government sources that he's out, and my worry is this the Obama administration yet again firing a CEO saying, look, we're going to come down harder on BP as a company if you don't get rid of a CEO that we don't like. I mean, we've seen this in the banking industry. We've seen this in the auto industry, and this is another example where we have the president who I think literally thinks, I can fire whoever I want to and threaten the government coming after your company if you don't get rid of the people we don't like, and that scares me.
Andy Bush, let me just ask you, do you think he should lose his severance package? And related to that, Andy, is he being canned or is he legitimately resigning? What's your take?
Well, first of all, I mean, he's got a 12 million pound payoff, which is mainly his pension. So I don't think anybody should get their pension revoked if they've been building it up and buying the company stock like Mr. Hayward's been doing. Clearly, everyone wants Mr. Hayward to go back to his previous life, whatever that is, especially in the Gulf. They feel, obviously that BP didn't do enough to avoid having this disaster, and I think there's many people who would agree with that. What's interesting, my take on this is what I'm worried about is what's coming out of Congress, which is the spill bill. And in the spill bill, there's a tax in there on U.S. companies that actually favors BP. So in effect, to go with what was said about President Obama, I think one of the other risks is that Congress, in this spill bill, is going to favor foreign entities because they're going to double tax U.S. companies on this, what they call a dual capacity taxpayer provision, and that will actually hurt companies like Chevron and ConocoPhillips and benefit companies like BP. So that's another angle to the story that's really disturbing.
But Ben, is it fair for Tony Hayward to take the fall for this? I mean, this is a company with a really bad safety record, but he wasn't in charge during lots of it. I mean, you look at Prudhoe Bay in Alaska, that was Lord John Brown was in charge at the time. You look at the Texas City refinery, another huge crisis, that was Lord John Brown. I mean, Tony Hayward has only been in charge for a little while. You can't really hang all this on him.
And he hasn't. And at the end of the day, Tony Hayward probably did not know what was going on in that oil rig or any of the other ones for that matter, because his job was not to run the rigs. His job was to run a company and have other people run the rigs. Now, was it a complete and utter debacle when all this happened and how bad the PR was? Sure. But at the end of the day, he's a CEO of a company that screwed up. Now, do you need an American face in this company? I think the Obama administration saying you better give us an American or we're going to come down on you. But if he deserves what his contract says, and he also deserves whatever they think is fair, and he should fight for whatever he can get. And the main point is government should not be involved in any aspect of this settlement, and they obviously are.
See, Andy Bush, I want to stay with that point that Ben just made. Obama fired Hayward on television one Sunday morning. Now, I don't even know if BP is actually firing Hayward. What is your take? Is, in fact, this an overreach by the government?
I don't want to see the government involved in deciding who runs companies. I mean, you can regulate. If they've not followed the rules, then that's one issue, clearly. But telling and reaching into the private sector is just another example of creating uncertainty within our economy for corporations. And I know, Larry, you've talked about this many times, Steve Forbes as well, is the more you regulate, the more you get costs going up for companies and less of that product and more uncertainty. So this is just a great example of that.
And we know the midterms are coming. I think that's one of the big things here, Larry, is you look at this. This is an election year, and I think everybody knows that the people and the Democrats are going to go after BP, and they're going to talk about them all the time. And if you're BP right now, you're going to do probably anything you can to make sure they don't make you quarantine more money for cleanup or that they come with you with more regulations like they're trying to do right now. So I think it's a political move. They have no option. They got the gun to their head, and they got to play the game that the Obama administration is saying you got to play.
All right, we're going to leave it there, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.